So head teachers are calling for ministers to intervene over a new artificial intelligence programme that is helping students cheat in essays and coursework already.
It is called ChatGPT, only launched in November, but is growing at a staggering rate. It can process a huge amount of text from books, conversations and web content. The difference is the text that it generates sounds like it is written by a human. It can even write songs. And the singer Nick Cave has said the new technology is a sign that the apocalypse is coming because he got inundated by fans who had said to ChatGPT, write a Nick Cave song. They were so impressed by what it came up with. They sent it to Nick Cave. He's not impressed. Let's have a closer look at ChatGPT.
Artificial intelligence taking control. For decades, the possibility has fascinated filmmakers and sci-fi writers.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
In the classic Stanley Kubrick film 2001: A Space Odyssey, the AI computer HAL outwits his human crew members, the stuff of science fiction, or perhaps no longer. A new AI chatbot known as ChatGPT is getting teachers twitchy with how well it produces almost instant human-like answers. It's not just homework. It can write jokes, poems, sales emails, business plans, and even original bits of fiction in the style of anyone you fancy. But ChatGPT comes with quite a large caveat. It may not always be accurate. And the chatbot certainly hasn't impressed the singer Nick Cave, who was sent a song supposedly written in the style of Nick Cave. He labelled it a grotesque mockery of what it is to be human. So is ChatGPT going to change the world, or is it just a passing fad?
I hate to tell you this, but it's not a passing fad. Students are using it, and head teachers have all asked for an emergency summit and for the government to intervene. So let's speak to tech journalist Lara Lewington. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
You know, it's all fun and games, isn't it? Until basically teachers realise that every single student in their class is just putting in the essay title into ChatGPT and they're just getting 20 essays back, which all have been generated by a bot.
Well, yes, and already this has kicked off a bit of an arms race that there are plagiarism bots that are now looking for work that's being created by the AI. Some students are getting wise to that, and they're now using paraphrasing bots for what the AI has created so that it can't be identified. But there is a question here, really, moving forwards, as to whether this is actually cheating. Is taking a calculator into a maths exam cheating? Is this just the future, and does it actually level out the playing field for some people who aren't as good at writing as others?
It is developed by a San Francisco-based artificial intelligence research laboratory, OpenAI, founded in 2015 by Tesla and Elon Musk.
Yes.
What a surprise that he's at the foundation of it. The trouble is, you say, of course, is this just a development? In which case, teachers, university lecturers also are going to have to adapt to it, aren't they?
Of course. This emerged at the end of 2022 and came as a surprise to a lot of people, even a lot of people working in technology. We knew that we were heading in this direction, but for something so impressive to emerge was still quite surprising to a lot of people. And also the fact that it's open for us to all try. And that's, of course, what's been really novel here, is that a lot of this stuff was going on behind the scenes, but we were at the point where suddenly we can test it. And it won't be long before there'll be others as well. Google will probably bring something pretty soon as well. And we're looking at a small amount of data that, at this point, compared to what there's going to be later this year, it's still an absolutely huge amount, but that's going to grow exponentially. So the AI itself doesn't know anything. It's just drawing on a lot of data and using statistical probability as to what the right thing to say is. So it's not necessarily correct, because there will often be a difference between what a human and what a machine thinks is wrong. For example, the difference between going to Oxford or Cambridge to the person who went to one or the other is a huge difference, but to the AI, it would consider them similar things.
Does this mean, though, that we're going to have to change the way in which we, as teachers, examine? So that rather than saying, produce an essay, you have the student in front of you, and then you ask them questions about what the essay said and what it meant and what if this changed. And so things have to become oral, where you can challenge in real time, because that the bot can't do for you.
quite probably. I'm not a teacher. I don't know anything about teaching. I'd be a terrible teacher. So, yes, probably, things need to be rethought. But this is what happens with technology in general. We need to rethink the way that we live and the way that we react to things. And this isn't going to go away. This is only going to get more data and get cleverer and become more of a part of our lives.
It's interesting you say that, Ed, because you are a former Education Secretary. People, you know, like Gillian Keegan being asked to intervene on this. Education leaders say schools could be forced to overhaul homework by asking children to write essays during lessons and do research at home to prevent them from using the chatbot.
Well, of course, historically, the way people were examined, if you were doing a PhD thesis to become a doctor, historically, you came to an oral examination where you had to defend your thesis. And, you know, in some ways, therefore, the technology takes us back to a previous era. And, you know, Nick Cave, it may be somebody can write a song in the style of Nick Cave, but only Nick Cave can stand on the stage and perform a Nick Cave song. I say that. Of course, there's avatars doing it through technology down in East London. So, but it may be that we have to change, because what we're really examining, it's not whether you can write an essay, it's whether you understand and comprehend and then can, you know, dissect an argument.
And Lara, the point about it is people will go, well, what's the difference between this and Wikipedia with this and just Googling an answer? It's because it generates something new, doesn't it, that looks creative.
Yes, and you can do follow-up questions. So I asked it to write a letter to my friend to apologise for the fact I was grumpy because I had a toothache. Totally fictional situation. And I read the letter, and it apologised for the inconvenience. Now, you wouldn't apologise to a friend for the inconvenience of being grumpy. You'd apologise for maybe hurting their feelings, or sorry if you said anything out of turn. And so sometimes the things aren't quite right, and you could just tell that there was no way a human wrote it. But what you can then do is ask a follow-up. So I then said, can you make it seem less formal? And it wrote a less formal version, and it does that really impressively, and that's very different to when you ask a search engine to do something and it will just come up with the facts.
Lara,
I spoke, though, to a friend of mine who tried this about William Shatner from Star Trek, and they asked the AI, what would he think of going into space? And the answer was, you know, the next frontier, how wonderful it would be. In fact, when William Shatner went into space, his reaction was he hated it. He was scared. He wanted to be on Earth with humans. All this can do is draw upon the past. What it can't do is create in the present or see the future. And that's another way we're going to have to change our creativity to not just rely upon the past, but to do things in a different way.
Lara, thanks so much for bringing us up to speed.
Pleasure.
And do get in touch with us if you're particularly a teacher and you have a concern about that.